All right, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to today's Heroes Connect Military Manufacturing event. It is Wednesday, so we're connecting you all with another manufacturer who values your talent. Let me first introduce myself. My name is Katie. I'm a senior manager with the Heroes Make America program, and I'll be moderating today's event. Today, I have the pleasure of hosting Atlas Copco Group. I'm excited for you all to learn more about this large conglomerate of a company and the variety of products, tools, and solutions that they produce under their many different brands. So to learn more about this company and all the different brands that they represent. We do events like this to not only introduce you to a potential employer post-military, right, to make sure that you can find employment, but also want to connect you as a job seeker with employers who are actively looking to hire military talent. Most importantly, though, we aim to help our broader military community better understand the manufacturing industry itself. Because frankly, sometimes if we don't know someone who's personally worked in manufacturing, it can be a very unknown industry as to how our skill sets are applicable. So this is really more additionally educational to learn more about the manufacturing industry itself. So let's go ahead and get started. Before we jump into today's event, though, I want to do some quick housekeeping. First off, the event is being recorded. You probably got that announcement when you came in, because we're going to send it out as a recap email after the event. Do please be sure you stay muted throughout the presentation just to minimize any background noise that we have, to make sure that we have that clean recording to send out. And then lastly, because our mics are muted, doesn't mean we can't still be active participants. I want to make sure that you know to use the chat box, right? So just open it up, put any questions that you have. We will revisit those questions during the Q&A portion after the presentation. So we do reserve, 15 minutes at the end to specifically go over y'all's questions. So throw them in the chat during the presentation so you don't forget, and then I'll come back and read them during it. To practice the chat box, what I want you to do is go ahead and open it up. I want you to put in the location of where you're job searching. So if that's a city, state, a state, anywhere in that state, region, whatever it might be, drop in there where you're going to be looking for your next job post-military. All right, while you all are doing that, I want to take a minute just to talk through Heroes Make America, because if you're not familiar with our program, you may not know all the different things that we offer. We are a DoD-approved SkillBridge training program as well as an Army CSP. We're open to transitioning service members, veterans, reservists, National Guardsmen, and military spouses. So if you're military affiliated, you can come through our program. We do provide a variety of certification training, so that's mainly what we do is certification training and networking events like this with different employers. And we're trying to equip you for rewarding careers in the manufacturing supply chain industry. You can see our 5 program managers here and the 4 current training pathways that we offer, which include manufacturing operations, so more the operations side of the house, logistics, the supply chain side of the house, industrial systems, which is more the maintenance side, as well as our newest pathway for our aircraft mechanics to learn more or to earn their FAA airframe and power plant certification. So we just did add the A&P certification pathway. We're going to drop in our contact information so you have it, so if you want to reach out to any of us to learn more about our programs. And then last but not least, I do want to mention that in addition to our SkillBridge trainings, we host a variety of other virtual events just like this. So we have our weekly Heroes Connect events, we have a veteran learning series, and then we also do in-person and virtual career fairs to directly connect you with various employers across the country. Our next ones are going to be out at Fort Stewart in Georgia. So this summer series, we've got June 5th at Fort Stewart, and then we also have July 30th out at Fort Cavazos in Texas. So if you're near either of those, put those dates on your calendar. More information will be shared about what employers are registered. Check our social media channels, our LinkedIn and Facebook, to follow all that information and find the most up-to-date information. But that's it for me right now. Let's now move on to today's featured company with our speaker, Paul Humphreys. So, Paul, floor is all yours. I'll take down my slide deck and you can put up yours.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everybody. I can't talk and press the share screen button, so you've got to give me a second. This is only share. There we go. Let's go screen. Make sure I click that sound button. Perfect. So just before we get going, the immortal words of every single online web event. Can everyone see my screen?
Yes.
Excellent. So yes, good afternoon. Happy Wednesday. Hump Day. I can't get that Geico commercial out of my mind since they launched it, right, with a camel walking around and what have you. But happy Wednesday. My name's Paul Humphreys. I'm the Corporate Communications Manager for Atlas Copco Group in North America. Despite the somewhat British, hopefully sounding accent, I'm based in Charlotte, North Carolina. Spectacular day here today, so I'm very happy, especially today I'm here. And the first thing I want to say is two thank yous. Number one, thank you for your time. And number two, thank you very much for your service. It's very close to my heart. I started all of these calls that my brother-in-law is a veteran of the British Army. He was in 3 para for a number of years, so I know exactly what you folks have gone through and your dedication. So again, thank you, and thank you for taking time to listen to us today. So Atlas Copco Group, let's start with a little bit of a tease maybe. So have you ever thought, and I know the answer is no, but bear with me, it gets better. Have you ever thought what AI, quantum science, hydrogen vehicles, renewable energy, portable power solutions, and life-saving medical treatment all have in common? Well, maybe the surprising answer is Atlas Copco Group. So you know a lot about technology, right? We can't escape technology. You know exactly what it is, okay? You're using, ChatGPT, you're using cell phones, you're using all sorts of advanced devices. But do you know how that technology is made? How is a cell phone made? How do rockets get into space? How are microchips produced? And, that's the power of manufacturing. Katie said in her introduction, manufacturing is such a fun space to be in. And the key thing there's a couple of key things I want you to get from this presentation. The number one is that manufacturing really is tech in many instances. It really is. The way things are made is very high tech. The communications, the infrastructure, manufacturing really is tech. So, and the great thing is the diversity of manufacturing too, and that's the power of working for Atlas Copco Group. I personally have been fortunate enough to have been in breweries, yes, for work. I've been fortunate enough to be in wastewater treatment plants. Don't sound that exciting, I know, but it's a great place to be, actually. Some great applications. Food plants, chemical plants, NASCAR race teams, Formula One race teams. All of them use compressed air or industrial tooling. So, a little bit of a boast perhaps, but name any product or piece of essential infrastructure. Let us tell you the products we produce, the customers we work with, and more importantly, how we make a difference. At Atlas Copco Group, the slogan, we make technology that transforms the future. In simple words, we innovate in products that are essential to build and produce just about everything that's part of your life. So that's takeaway number 2, if you like. Number 1, manufacturing is tech, it's very high-tech business. Number 2, Atlas Copco Group, our products are used in manufacturing to build and produce just about everything that's a part of your life. And I got some examples here as we go through it. Let's just go to a quick video. Katie or Renee, if you can't hear the sound, shout at me, but you should be able to hear it.
If there's one thing we can all agree on, it's that there are lots of things in this world. Small things, big things, round things, tasty things, and things that just work. And here's the things that just work are often the things you don't even notice. Like vacuum chambers, turbo expanders, drop application, and energy storage. Things that help keep satellites in orbit, help build electric cars, and enable the transition to renewable energy. Things that power the things that make popcorn machines work. Things like that. And of course, behind these things we find some really rather clever people. People like Ron, Alana, and Mercedes. Actually, there's over 50,000 of us, so we'll leave it there. We are the people behind the things that work so well you don't even know they exist. So we're here to remind you that they do. Atlas Copco Group, technology that transforms the future.
I love that video, and I can say that because I was no part of making it, so it's not self-praise. A great job by our global team that did that. So I've kind of, hopefully, my goal was to tease you a little bit, hopefully kind of make you a little bit more intrigued about finding out about Atlas Copco Group. If anyone's there in the chat now, I'd love you just to answer, and completely honestly, the question, before this presentation or this meeting, have you heard of Atlas Copco Group? You can just put yes or no. If you wouldn't mind, that would just give me a quick pulse server.
If there's one...
So Now let's get into a little bit more the nuts and bolts of what we do. So first, Atlas Copco, where does it come from? I'm not going to read it all to you, but simply Atlas was the company that was founded in 1873. We're 152 years old. Atlas was named after the Greek titan who would carry the world on his shoulders. And over the course of 150 years, we've had three major name changes, from Atlas to Atlas Diesel in 1918, which reflected the time there, really the revolution in diesel powered, and especially around locomotives. And we've been Atlas Copco since 1956, an Atlas Copco Group as we are now. And Copco is simply an acronym of a Belgium subsidiary with a focus on compressed air. So Compagnie Pneumatique Commercial. They just took the acronym Copco. So that's where Atlas Copco comes from. A couple of things I want you to know about us. Takeaways. Number one, it's a true fact that we actually have a dinosaur named after us. The Atlas Copcosaurus. I promise you can Google it. I didn't make it up. Even I'm not that creative to make something like that up. I wasn't there, of course, but as the story goes, in 1984 in Australia, an archaeological dig discovered the remains of a new dinosaur. Somebody come up, they come up with a name almost straight away. I heard of these new species that they find. The whole area was surrounded by the portable yellow machines of air and power and tooling that they'd used to basically perform the dig. And someone said, well, what about Atlas Copcosaurus? And there it is. And we even have them available in our own company store that you can buy or get given one as well. So we have a dinosaur that's named after us. And on the left, you can just see that we also have our own internal foundation, if you like, called Water for All, that's been supporting clean drinking water all over the world since 1984. We did have a massive mining and rock company that split off. The company split into two in 2017, 8 years back now. Epiroc is the kind of we're separate companies, but a sister company, if you like, of Atlas Copco Group. And something I'd just like to mention that speaks to our longevity. I'm going to come back to science-based targets, so I won't speak about that now. But in 151 years, the group has had 13 CEOs. Wagner Rego, Brazilian national, become the 13th CEO of the group in May 2024. So, very stable, very well-run public company. As I show here, we've been very fortunate to open the NASDAQ in New York 3 times. And this was the last one on our 150th birthday in February the 21st, 2023. And a little fun fact, it might have changed now, but Atlas Copco Group, if you like, is the world's 213th at the point of this slide. Again, somewhere between 213 and 250 is where it moves. Most valuable company in the world. So most valuable company in the world is basically the number of shares times the price of the share, and it gives you what's known as a market capitalization. So many, many billion, and certainly the largest Swedish company by market cap. So there we are at the NASDAQ, which was a fun day. I was in a tie that day. You can see me kind of sneaking, hovering at the back. And what was great about this, we took our longest serving employees with us. You see most of those on the left-hand side. So between, I think, the 5 employees, it was something like over 200 years of experience. So really, really speaks to our company. A couple of little fun facts. Again, every third car in the world is assembled by our products and solutions. Compressors from Atlas Copco are used to brew around 50% of all the industrially produced beer in the world. You are more than welcome. Vacuum is used to manufacture touch screens, huge industry in semiconductors and things. I think we'll touch a little bit more around that. So you can see that 90% of all the flat screens in the world are manufactured using our vacuum pumps. And depending on the device, it takes around 30 critically fastened screws to keep everything in place in a smartphone, which is also something that Atlas Copco Group does. So the takeaways, number one, again, let's go. Manufacturing, complete. Manufacturing is a complete tech business. You remember that one? Anyone remember number 2? It's a test. Pop it in the chat. I'll come back to that. But number 3, The Atlas Copco Group is a collection of over 70 brands. So Atlas Copco that you see in the middle there, that shares a very similar name with the kind of blue logo just in the middle towards the left next to CPC Pumps, is a product and a customer brand. All of these are brands of which our customers buy products from us. Some are local, some are national, some are regional. We have around 19, I would say, active brands in the US. Couple you might recognize: Chicago Pneumatic. Anyone know that one? The iconic Rosie the Riveter painting. Norman Rockwell, right? That was one of our rivet busters that was on the lap there of Rosie. Quincy Compressors, fantastic compressed air company, started out of Quincy, Illinois, now in Bay Minette, Alabama. A couple of medical brands on there that you might have heard of: Beacon Medeus in the US, Class 1, a little bit more in Canada, but in the US as well. So over 70 brands. So I'm here talking about opportunities with all of these brands. We really share kind of one culture, one vision, but the products which we supply to customers and the way that we go to market can be very, very different. Some facts and figures: customers in more than 180 countries, around 55,000 employees. We're 4 business areas, 24 operating divisions. Last year, revenues of around 16 billion US if you do the conversion from krona to dollar, and 33 global acquisitions in 2024. So some of those relatively small distributors or routes to market, this is global, these numbers on the 33 acquisitions, but it just shows you, I mean, it's more than an acquisition every other week. So very progressive when it comes to routes to market, when it comes to technologies, when it comes to finding businesses that offer great synergies with the group. I mean, it staggers me as a number, to be honest with you, that again, it's global, but we were able to do so then. I mentioned 24 divisions. I won't kind of go through them all. You see them here in the 4 business areas. You can see there's one on the left-hand side that's medical gas solutions, so works purely really in the medical industry. Then if you look at industrial technique there, you know, you can see like MVI, which is motor vehicle industry. So there's divisions which are really just working on cars and car plants and transport in general. Huge focus on the semiconductor industry. You can see in the vacuum technique box. And then power technique, you know, I think once you become aware of a company or a product, or you're looking at buying a new car or something, you know, your heightened awareness means that you start to see them everywhere. So as you drive home or drive to vacation or drive wherever you need to drive, take a look out the window, and the yellow machines that you see up and down the highways of US and Canada, could be a pump, could be a generator, could be an air compressor. If you take a close look, there's a very good chance that you will see Atlas Copco on the side of that machine. So this is just showing the products. You know, I like to kind of joke, you know, we do vacuum pumps, but you can't vacuum the floor with it. We do screwdrivers, but I certainly wouldn't you know, assemble something from IKEA with it. We do battery storage plants, but these can literally power your house or your entire neighborhood. This is not just to charge your iPhone. So we really do very high level, high tech things that are aimed at industry. We do have a global presence. I mentioned the 180 countries. This is just a little bit of a snapshot. I'll talk about career path at the end, you know, but for myself, I've been fortunate enough to work to sort of work and live in 4 countries, really 4 major countries. Been fortunate enough to visit many others as well. So really does give you a gateway to the world, I would say. And the great thing about it is the number of industries served. As I mentioned in my opening, anything from aerospace to medical to construction to pharmaceutical to wastewater treatment plants to breweries to everything and anything. You know, we have some very, very unique and niche kind of operations or applications, I should say. And we're really on the forefront, you know, again, of doing things in a much more renewable way, using less energy, using alternative energy sources. You know, for example, if you look at the generators, you know, and I'm sure many of you have seen them or come across them, the generators on construction sites or big mobile air compressors. I mean, Fun fact, they can all be run off HVO now, which is the hydro, blah, blah, vegetable oil, but they can all be run off vegetable oil if the customer wishes them. Here's a QR code you scan. I'm going to come back to this. In a second once I finish the presentation. But I promised you again that the second takeaway was, of course, that Atlas Copco Group produce just about everything that helps to produce just about everything that you need and consume. And this is just an online tool that will go more into that. The bag of chips, the bottle of water, the swimming pool, the cell phone, the table, the chair, everything is made with Atlas Copco products. A very holistic company. I won't spend too long on this, but we have these kind of 6 growth areas in our mission. So it's not just all about finances. And if I go to this slide, I talked a little bit about science-based targets. So we are one of the early adopters of science-based targets. So in essence, you know, of course, all large companies have sustainability goals. That's nothing that's new to you. But there's a couple of things I like to say about science-based targets that makes them different and unique. So number one is you're talking about your CO2 in absolute numbers. So in simple terms, if we double the business, which we'd love to do over the next, you know, what have we got left? 6 years. If we double the business over the next 6 years, we've still got to hit our target for CO2. We can't aggregate our CO2 based on our, you know, how much we sell versus our cost of goods sold. Like, we can't play with a percentage. It's an absolute number. And the most important thing, I think, is that when you're working in a company that's in science-based targets, scope 3 is ultimately, there's a few things in there, but it's your products in use. So, for example, one of our goals is that 100% of our new products will use less energy, in simple terms. So every product that we launch, will this use more energy? I know sometimes just with my network here, and especially on Zoom, my camera can go a bit blurry. So if it does, I apologize for that. I see I'm back now, but maybe I look a bit better blurry, but don't adjust your camera. So science-based targets, super important to us. Let's talk about the US. The footprint here. So, you know, if I look at it, we're roughly 30 customer centers, 24 production or remanufacturing facilities, 2 national distribution centers. We have over 100 locations in the US. We also work through a very large distribution network as well. So you can see sometimes that, you know, if you look at our business units there, let's say if you're in Kansas or Colorado or Wyoming, you know, perhaps you're thinking, well, what have you got for me? And the answer is straight away that we have remote sales and service in just about every territory, even where we don't have a physical presence. But if not, again, it's coming back to distributors as well. So you can see that we kind of follow the horseshoe shape a little bit, and we're really located right close to where we need to be from our customers' point of view. This is talking about those 26 production, remanufacturing, and distribution facilities. Many, many brands. I'll show it in a second. This slide just kind of gives you a little bit of an idea for the kind of things that we're making in the US. Turbo expanders, industrial pumps, cryostat pumps, air dryers, valves, custom engineering of compressors, screw compressors, piston compressors, rivets, abatement systems, liquid ring pumps, gas and vapor hydrogen recovery systems, mobile compressors, pumps, generators, medical equipment, lots and lots of different products that we're making as part of this portfolio. Again, we're working to get this map perhaps a little bit better, but there's so much information. But you can see that these are the business units, and then we've got this slide of what we do. There's the kind of 111 locations in a nutshell. And just to go over the branding side, these are the kind of headquarter locations. So where our main office is for the Atlas Copco branded products. And here you can see the headquarters and locations for all of the different brands. So you can see that we've got as many, if not more, locations for all of our brands as what we've got for Atlas Copco. So it really is Atlas Copco Group. This is kind of just a couple of pictures. This is what our kind of offices look like. We are an industrial company, but we have some very nice offices with manufacturing. Some have manufacturing, some don't. We've got over 4 million square feet of leased or owned real estate in the US where our operations are on. Just a couple of other pictures here. You can see a lot of this. I show these ones because these are a lot of the ones that come from acquisitions. A little focus on recruitment, and what I'm going to do here is, that I've tried to kind of tease you a little bit about Atlas Copco or intrigue you. Then I've tried to explain the kind of nuts and bolts of what we do. But what is it really like to join us? And I thought, who better to share this than one of the great veterans that we've hired from the Heroes Make America program. It is about 4 minutes, 4.5 minutes, just to give you a kind of heads up. But I promise you, it's a good video, and I really want to share that.
I was active for 8 years, and I was a 91 Bravo, and then I transitioned to be an operations NCO working with the commander and first sergeant. In the Army, I worked on wheeled vehicles, so I worked on everything from Humvees to 10-ton wreckers to fuel trucks. But being a 91 Bravo in the Army, you pretty much work on anything. They call us 91 everything. I'm still a member of the North Carolina National Guard. I do 1 weekend a month, 2 weeks a year. The Heroes Make America program is a real eye-opener. It lets you, a soldier that's used to that structured life, get an idea of what the civilian world's going to be like. So for me, I already knew what the civilian life was about because I was 27 when I joined. But then when I went through the program, it opened up my eyes to how much the world had actually changed in the 8 years that I was in the military. Everything had completely changed. And Rachel Walford helped me out tremendously through that program. I was wanting to try to stay in the mechanical world because that's what I've been doing for, even before I joined the Army, I was a mechanic. So I never worked on air compressors, and it sounded interesting, especially when Atlas Copco came and talked to us through the Heroes Make America program. Just kind of opened my eyes because in my mind, when I was in the Army, I never thought that an air compressor needed its own mechanic. And I was like, well, I've never worked on that, so I'll go give it a shot. I went to Rock Hill, South Carolina. It's the main hub for the United States. And I went through level 1 training where they broke down basic electrical, broke down the different types of machines, and you learn the basics of how each one operates and how to troubleshoot minor stuff, how to work the electronics of it. I thought I knew some stuff about safety and mechanical and everything until I started doing some of these trainings, and it really let me know that I didn't know as much as I thought. Just the freedom in the job itself. Get up in the morning, you don't have to report to an office, you just go out, log into your laptop, see what your job is for the day, and you go to work. Everything with an air compressor is technical. It could be anything from a loose wire to a bolt inside the system. They're way more technical than a vehicle. You're somewhere different every day. You're not doing the same job every single day. The other technicians in the area, you got some senior guys, and then you got some guys that have been my group that's been there a little bit longer than me, so of course they know more, so I'll call them. I've even been at the point where I called my service manager and I was like, hey, Tim, I can't figure this out, and I would tell him what was happening, and he would help me break it down and give me the rundown on how to fix it. And you also have bigger, larger groups called TCC that you can also contact, and they can give you the whole breakdown of how the machine, to rebuild it from the ground up, pretty much. You build that friendship, you build that brotherhood, and you can rely on them to help you whenever you need it. Greatest attribute that the service has is their benefits, and Atlas Copco's benefits are very on par with the military's benefits. The insurance, the vacation days, and you get company van, company laptop, company cell phone. The best advice I could give to a transitioning service member is to keep your head up. It's tough at first, but just keep pushing forward like you did when you were in the service. The skills I learned through the military they are very appreciated still, and our service managers love us to death because we're the type that we go in, we do the job, and we do it right the first time.
Back on the video here. There we go. Yeah, so again, I think John explained it super well. John is one of our mobile service technicians. It's really our most needed role. Between all of the different businesses, we have maybe 700 folks on the road every day. That one business, Compressors, has around 450. It is the largest. It's a bad analogy in some ways, but almost think of it like an HVAC kind of technician, but on steroids. You're going into manufacturing plants. You're doing a lot of preventative maintenance. That's so key to us. If an air compressor goes down, the factory goes down, basically. So proactive preventative maintenance is super important. But of course, you know, it's mechanical equipment. Breakdowns do happen. You have to do a lot of troubleshooting. You're dealing with a customer needs you to get it back online type thing. So very fun, very rewarding job. Of course, we have sales, engineering, manufacturing, logistics, all of that as well. But I wanted to share John's experience with you. And then what is it actually like to be in the company? And I got
Our core values are
commitment,
innovation,
and interaction.
we believe our people make it happen.
We believe there is always a better way.
from day one. You are given the freedom and authority to act.
We provide a flexible and collaborative work environment
where you're empowered to drive your own career
while enjoying comprehensive wellness and benefits programs.
An inclusive workplace where employees have equal opportunities
is the foundation for innovation.
Atlas Copco Group products produce just about everything we need and consume.
With over 60 brands, we have the right fit for you.
And we lead the way when it comes to being sustainable, with a vision to be first in mind, first in choice.
Our innovation empowers our customers to grow and drive society forward.
Will you join us in challenging the status quo?
Atlas Copco Group.
Technology that transforms.
That transforms the future.
The future.
The future.
So just to speak to our culture there a little bit, and just a couple more slides, and a couple of extra resources, a couple of things you can Google. Google Atlas Copco, Sweden's best kept secret. Great podcast from an American-based name has escaped me at the moment, but a great podcast if you Google that. And if you Google Atlas Copco, Meet the People, you'll hear more about our customer and more from our employees about their journeys. And this is a little bit of a hard maybe image to digest. So what I would say when it comes to this is that, it really is the different tracks. So for example, region, if you're interested in working in Europe at some point, if that's a passion of yours or a goal of yours, very possible with Atlas Copco Group. If you're someone that really, if you look at the different hierarchy, if you're someone that wants to grow from an employee to a supervisor, to a manager, to a general manager, to a vice president, to a president, or a global president, something that's very possible. I think we have two of our current presidents started as basically interns. You can change your product focus. If you're interested in aerospace and you'd like to get more into medical or construction, those routes are all very, very possible. So, there's many, many great stories about working for the group. I started in the UK in 2000. I worked within our tools business for 6 years. I then transferred. I still lived in the UK, but I transferred to our office in Nantes, France for our global tools office. I worked out there for 2 years. 2008, I relocated to the US. I was working for our compressor technique business, always in communications. In 2013, I was the general manager of one of our parts businesses, which was a great mission, great learning for me, and a really good passion of mine. Then in 2015, I moved to Antwerp, Belgium. I worked in our power technique business. It was not even called power technique back then. Actually, it was called construction technique, but I worked in that business for 3.5 years in Belgium. And then mid-2018, come back. I worked in the CT business again for a little bit. Now I'm purely in a corporate function. So we have something called our internal job database. More than 80% of our managers are promoted from within. So, we talk very much about the mission within Atlas Copco Group. You get a mission. Typically, that's around 3 years, depending on the job. Can be a little bit shorter, can be a little bit longer. You get a 3-year mission. You go, you do well, you achieve your objectives. You then get with your manager, you get into the internal job database, and you're like, okay, is it geography that's interesting to me? Am I looking for a promotion in terms of my responsibility? Would I like to switch products? And all of those things are absolutely possible. That was the last PowerPoint, other than to say, let's find which great brand and role is the perfect fit for you, which will be part of our discussion. And I just wanted to show quickly, if you click on the QR code, unfortunately, and I do mean unfortunately, it's actually me again, but this is the route where you can find yourself. It does also work with the VR glasses. I will place this link inside the chat, but this is where you can click on those applications I talked about.
It's been said that Atlas Copco Group works with everything that's flying now and everything that's going to be flying in the next 10 years. Like automotive, we've built many custom solutions.
It's really awkward watching yourself, just for the record, so let's not have too much of that. But you can go to all of these different applications. Again, it is with glasses and fully immersive if needs be. And you can definitely, have a little bit of fun. Like, what is this one? I don't know. It's not going to play it. So just come on, don't do this to me.
No, we can't claim to have invented the light bulb. However, we play an essential role in ensuring that power reaches the bulb in the most sustainable way. And by this, we mean using the minimum amount of energy possible. This includes our own range of battery storage.
And please, if you want to learn a little bit more about the group and the applications, please go and explore this. Again, I'll paste the link into the chat. You can also find it on the website. I have our kind of job board or our website here where we can sort of look at that and explore any jobs. But Katie, maybe I'll throw it back to you quickly. Do we have any questions, anything that we should go to?
No questions in the chat yet. So if you want to explore the website for a few, and then I'll come back on with some other questions.
Very good, thank you. So yeah, when you come to our website, and you can go to the individual brands as well, like Atlas Copco or CP, but atlascopcogroup.com is the best one. So, of course, the first thing that I would do, we are working on our US version, not ready yet. So the first thing I'd really do is click the US. You can see there that we have 206 jobs available right now in the US. And full disclosure, we're also working on a little our state locator to work better, but you can put it just in the search box if you're looking for South Carolina, for example, and you can also just filter here on the different things that maybe interest you. So this is showing less because I filtered on South Carolina. So if I just take this job, for example, we go through here. It's, of course, explaining what the job does. And then the key thing is that you'll see at the bottom. So the thing I wanted to mention, it's telling you where the job is. But on-site or remote, you will see typically 3 things in there. So number 1 is remote. So if it's a sales technician or a service person, pretty much it's remote. As you heard from the video of John, that means that you don't report into an office every day. Parts are either shipped direct to you, the customer site, or maybe direct to you. You get in your van is really your office and you're a remote employee. And we have those all across the US. The second one is on-site. So on-site, as it typically would say, would mean that you're expected to report to the office. I would say that outside of like hands-on manufacturing, just about all of our businesses have some sort of element of remote working. So I'm actually at the home office today. The business that I'm working in is typically 3 days in the office, 2 days at home. Some businesses are 4 days in the office, 1 at home, etc., etc. But we do understand and we do work the flexible schedule. So that's on-site, not hybrid. Hybrid would typically mean that, for example, so if this is in Rock Hill, South Carolina, I could probably live around 4 hours from the office. Just to give a context, I wouldn't be expected to be in the office every day, but I would go there quite frequently. I would need to interact with the office, but it could be further away than a commute that I would want to do every day of the week or 3 days of the week, if that makes sense. So always look out for this hybrid, which again really means you would be in the office, not so much, but you could be close. Depending on the job, it might be a flight. Of course, we have some hybrid people that are reporting to the South Carolina office that live a bit further away. That's hybrid. On-site means, more often than not, you're at that site, but there's some sort of element of flexible working. Certainly, if you're not in hands-on manufacturing, and remote is remote. And I always encourage people, if I take a couple of things, that when you look at the education requirements, if you feel that you don't apply for jobs that you think are not a fit for you or not within your skill set, of course. I mean, because it takes time for you, it takes time for us. But when you look at if I go down this one, education and experience. So if we take this one, imagine that you don't have a bachelor's degree in mechanical engineering, but you do have, just for argument's sake, 10 years of experience working on, tanks, aircraft, whatever else it is. And you do understand, again, I'm just rolling with this one, you do understand thermodynamics, steam cycles, and refrigeration. I would absolutely apply for this job. The recruiters love to speak to the folks from Heroes Make America and our veteran community. If this job's not right for you, they can maybe recommend another one that is right. But you will not get, quote unquote, bounced out for the education requirements. And certainly, and by the way, if you have the education requirements, but perhaps not the direct hands-on experience, because of course you've been serving your country, then that is also okay. But of course, you should have the skills. Yes, I can do this job. Willingness to travel in this one, 30 or 40%, for example. So you can see that many of them now have a salary range in there as well, just to give you a context as well. So, again, 206 jobs that are available today. All sorts of descriptions, just search for the kind of thing that you are looking for. We're working on some tools to make this candidate experience better. You can also do it on LinkedIn, of course, if that's your preferred choice. All of these roles go directly to LinkedIn. So again, here, this one is on site. You can see the brand. It's with Liwa, a fantastic pump manufacturer. And if you click on the apply for this position, I think this is where we've got a really nice process. Meaning that it's pretty simple and not so cumbersome for the folks that want to apply for our roles. So it's a case of uploading a resume and a cover letter. I don't work within the HR community or talent acquisition, but I believe that a great personally written cover letter is a good thing. You answer a few questions and you send it in. You will get confirmation that it's received. And more importantly, of course, if you do apply for any jobs, please let the Heroes Make America team know. They typically would let me know. I get in contact with our recruiters. As you can imagine, all of these businesses kind of recruit themselves. So, if you said, whose job is this? I would have to go look it up on an internal system because it could be one of, maybe up to 40 people. They let us know. I let them know. And of course, I would say that your application has a priority and someone will reach out to you and make sure that they discuss it. So that's the website in a nutshell. I will stop that share for a minute, Katie. I'll come back to you. Did we get any questions? Was there anything I can answer?
Yes. So we got a few, but before we jump into them, I want to first say thank you for that presentation. I feel very thorough in terms of not only learning about the company, but understanding how this applies to them and explaining those roles and the tools that they can use on the website. I also love that Atlas Copco, if you don't know much about manufacturing, right, if this program is new to you or exploring manufacturing is new to you, I don't think a lot of people realize that like manufacturers are in manufacturers, right? So that your tools are in other manufacturers to make a final product. And that's why the footprint is so vast because you're in so many different sites. So I think that alone is probably mind blowing for some folks because it's just not realized. I've toured different sites that actually have Atlas Copco brands in them in different components, vacuum systems, compressors, whatever it might be. So I think that was a great explanation. I do have a question. So the technician roles were explained and how he goes out and fixes and works on the different equipment in the different sites. How does the sales roles work? Because those are also remote. Are there trainings involved? What does that mean? Do they have a region? Are they servicing different customers? Can you kind of explain the sales roles, training needed, and all that stuff?
Yeah. So, it's like, here's the brochure, there's your car, go sell. No, I'm kidding, of course. So it's a great question, Christopher, I think. So, if I take one of our businesses to speak specifically and then understand that all of our businesses would have something similar. So if you take the compressor business, they've got what's known as the Air Academy in Rock Hill, South Carolina. So typically, if you join as a new salesperson, you would spend a minimum of 2 weeks in Rock Hill, South Carolina, meaning that you would go through Air Academy. I can't remember if they call it pilot or driving license now, but you would pass number 1 and you would pass number 2. Okay, that was what you would do. You'd also typically, of course, and that's the great thing I love, it's not a copy-paste approach. It really depends on your skills and where you are. You'd typically be assigned a mentor, someone that you would go on some joint visits with, for a little bit, that you would basically shadow. And to give a context, this timescale, depending on your knowledge, perhaps between sort of 3 and 6 months. And then you also have always a full support team in Rock Hill. So imagine that you get asked, for the first time, I don't know, what is the dew point of this dryer? And you're like, oh, I didn't really dew point, I think, or whatever it might be. There's people that you can call and support. So like it is technical sales, but you're not expected to be like a PhD engineer in how a compressor works. Because if you've got a customer, Intel or Boeing or whoever it is that wants to get into that level of detail, someone's either coming with you or there's a remote team, that would dial in within applications. Another thing, by the way, as an employee, you get access to every single course that's available on LinkedIn Learning, completely free of charge. So it's several thousand. I really don't want to misquote the number. And we have our own academy as well. So, for example, I'm doing a Power Automate course on Monday, actually. So it's completely remote. Power Automate is the Microsoft platform. I'm doing a one-day Power Automate course via Teams. And there's lots of other training, around that as well. And the different businesses have different kind of sales. So that's about products. And then they have their own, some are into the spin kind of training. Some are more into the Gartner process. They also typically would have their own sales trainers and their own, how to overcome objections, how to, how to ask good open-ended questions and those sorts of things.
That sounds wonderful. Not being thrown to the wolves is probably the answer they were looking for, right? Lots of training to make you up to speed on whatever you'll be selling.
As an employee, just to mention, like the absolute minimum for current is 40 hours a year is the absolute minimum that's mandated by the company, and everyone would typically exceed that. But the minimum training for an employee, myself included, is 40 hours.
Interesting. Well, with a company that's ever changing and growing, being up to speed on everything is very important. But that's wonderful to hear that Atlas Copco has such a strong presence and belief in training the employees. Love that. So hopefully, Christopher, that answered your question. I have another question regarding the supply chain side of the house. So we've got quite a few students or folks who are interested in more of that supply chain and distribution side. How does that work? You'd mentioned there's manufacturing sites and then there's distribution centers. Can you kind of talk about that side of the house, maybe positions they can look for, or just more about that business side?
Absolutely. So yeah, so we don't, if I look at and it's something I've learned from doing these calls, logistics is such a holistic kind of big term, right, in many respects. So, when it comes to freight and trucking and things, we use third parties. We don't have our own transportation company, but of course within the businesses we have our own team. So if you look at no doubt that major logistics, if you want, and the bigger, more responsible, more experienced positions are going to be in our warehouses. The biggest one of which is in Charlotte, North Carolina. But every single one of the manufacturing sites, of course, needs to get products to the customer, needs brokers, needs freight people. And if you go to the web, I was just looking at it now, that little search box. I mean, logistics is a great term to use. The other one I'd maybe use as a tip, like if I was searching something, I'd look for logistics. I would definitely search for warehouse. That would be the other one, right, which is a good one to show the jobs. And, just with a simple search, every single job that mentions logistics comes up. So, I've got like, and here's a good example, like I've got a lead software engineer. So, and if you read that, it says you will be involved in support, development, and project activities related to our supply chain. You're working on outbound logistics solutions. I have a rental desk coordinator. So we have a very large rental business. It's called Specialty Rental. We don't compete or work against, United Rentals, Sunbelt, those types of companies. They're great customers of ours, but we have a specialty rental. So, if you need this huge nitrogen system in Dallas for a week, we do that. And the person that does all of that logistics to get the equipment to you is called a rental desk coordinator. So that was a job that just come up when I put in the term engineer. So again, the website, logistics. Go to the website, put in the term logistics, put in the term warehousing, and you will see the jobs that will come up. And looking at this one, like we have a logistics coordinator, for example, right? So if you're, quite new to logistics, or you're just taking your course and you're a little bit earlier in the career path, then that sounds like something which might be a good fit. But again, there's not. And the other thing is, we're working on a better way to keep you up to date with all of the jobs that are in the system. But like for example, with all of the different businesses, I mean, a VP logistics could easily appear, tomorrow or Monday or what have you. So really important to check. I would say the job site regularly. I'd say every week, as a layman sort of figure, 10 jobs would drop off. They've expired, right? They've been out there typically for 2 weeks to a month, and another 10 jobs have appeared.
So thank you, Paul. And I do want to echo that is you look for the keywords because obviously that's going to be, what you're looking for. But I also want to remind, because that rental coordinator position, that title isn't maybe something you would look for. So look at every position because there's logistics type skills within a lot of different types of positions. And then also just knowing more about the logistics course, you've got your Lean Six Sigma and OSHA 30 as well, which opens the door to a lot of other types of positions. So looking at the whole combination of classes that you guys take. I do have another question about the website itself. So really, is it the best to go to the Atlas Copco Group website for all the brands instead of going to the individual brand websites? Is it just more of a one-stop shop to go directly to the Atlas Copco Group website itself?
Yeah, correct. Great question as well. Good to reiterate. Yeah, that's one thing that we did. Before we were group, in essence, it would be like, here's 19 websites. So if you've got an hour or two, please go look at the jobs. But the Atlas Copco Group website will show you every single job that's available, whether it's Lewa, whether it's Chicago Pneumatic, whether it's DeSuter, Quincy, Edwards, whoever it might be. They're all there. And there really is no, how do I put it? There's no bad starting point. All the brands have equal dignity. They're there to serve markets. So the brand, if Atlas Copco Group seems like a company for you, the brand and the company of which you start with, really doesn't matter as long as it fits for you. It's I can't think of a good example, but there's some brands that are maybe in a little bit more of a hierarchy. So you'd love to work for the premium one, but there's jobs in the less premium one. No, that's not the way that we are. Every brand has equal dignity, and you can't pick a bad starting point. So when you look at the job and it says brand, Lewa, CP, Quincy, whatever it might be, don't, it's all equal.
So thank you. I love that. Just it's easier to search all the brands on one website. So definitely use that bookmark that page and go to it weekly, like Paul had said, because so many jobs are coming and going. I do want to go back to the brands and kind of the categories of the brands, because I think it's easy to understand what an air compressor is. It's easy to understand, power techniques and the generators. Can you explain a little bit more about vacuum, that segment, and what does that mean? Because some people think, vacuum, a house vacuum. What does it mean, industrial vacuum?
Yeah, so if you can imagine, vacuum could be a couple of things. So number one, it's used to it's used to take air away and make completely clean chambers and rooms, right? I mean, that's the point of a vacuum. Okay, in essence, to make almost like space for a context. To make a chamber that zero gravity and make it look like space. Can also be used to pick things up. When you talk about flat screens and moving them, that's a vacuum that's being that's done. And it's also used like with silicon chips, used to make a coating and things, that's on the outside of the chips. And then that's what we call our semiconductor vacuum. But if you look at our general vacuum, I mean, the applications are absolutely endless, when it comes to bottling, for example, in bottling plants, they would all use vacuum products as well.
Awesome. Thank you. I think that's very educational, because the one I've seen, I've been in a factory that had Edwards Vacuum as one of your brands, right? And it was a semiconductor company. So vacuum sealing all the air out so no dust particles get on the little chips. Something as a regular old Joe off the street, I wouldn't even have thought that that's so important with manufacturing, how clean rooms are made. But just the importance of the products you all make is phenomenal. So those are all the questions I have. I don't see any more in the chat. So, and we're just about out of time anyways, Paul. So I'm going to give you the opportunity if there's any other things that you want to share with these folks before we let them go. And then we'll wrap up.
Yeah, again, just remember the three kind of takeaways. Number one, manufacturing is high tech and fun. Number two, it's Atlas Copco products that help make just about everything that we need and consume. And then number three, Atlas Copco is a collection of great brands. And so there's so many opportunities. So they're my three kind of takeaways. And then my last comment, again, just to thank you very much for spending just about an hour with me. It's gone super quick. I hope it's kind of gone quick for you too as well. But it's gone super quick. And again, thank you very much for your service, and congratulations on being part of what is a wonderful program that they've got with Heroes Make America.
So thank you, Paul. Those are great takeaways to have. And just as a reminder, everyone in the chat, we do have Paul's contact information if you want to connect with him on LinkedIn, as well as several websites to make sure you bookmark before you leave. But thank you for your time, Paul. This was very educational. I agree the hour went quickly. You threw out so much information, but it was really great. So thank you for being here, and thank you for our participants for joining us today. So don't forget, explore the websites, connect with Paul while you're on social media, connecting with him. Make sure you follow the Heroes Make America page on LinkedIn and Facebook, and then let's rejoin next week. So we're going to continue the conversation with more manufacturers next week, May 7th at 3 o'clock Eastern. Next week, we have the Aluminum Extruders Council and 4 companies. So these are aluminum manufacturers. They make various aluminum products. So very different than what Paul's talking about today. We're going to raw materials and going aluminum next week. But please join us next Wednesday, May 7th for that. But thank you again, Paul. And thank you for everyone joining us. But that's a wrap for today. So we'll see you next time.
Thanks, everyone. Have a good Wednesday.